Whoa! Hey, today we're talking about how to remove unused CSS or how to remove unused JavaScript. But specifically, that's changed a little. So it's actually how to reduce unused CSS and how to reduce unused JavaScript. So let's go! Whoa! So let me give you 4 pointers today, and I'm going to show you one in detail. That's how to manually reduce your CSS. So I'm going to show you that today and give you a demo on a live site. Let's have a look now. Like, yoo-hoo! Now let me show you the outcome. If you look here on Gtmetrix, the one on the left here is the starting, and the one on the right is after I've done the tweaks. So you can see straight away we've gone from a D to an A. Now letters and numbers are not everything, but as you can see we've increased the results by 27%, which is really cool. Down here, these 3 items are your Google Core Web Vitals. And as you can see, they're a massive reduction in those. So they're what we're really wanting to be aimed for. So we got some great results. And all we did was basically remove some CSS out of this particular site. Now, I got to let you know that you're not always going to be able to remove CSS. If you check out in this video up here, in that video from last year, I shared with you why you shouldn't bother doing what I'm going to teach you today. But the reason being is that sometimes the results are very small. But as you can see here, the results are actually very big. So that's why I'm going to demonstrate today some physical things that you can do to actually at least find out where the unused CSS is and where the JavaScript is, and maybe get a developer to do it, because a disclaimer, it's not always that easy to clean these things up. That's why in that video, I showed with you not to bother, because it's actually quite tricky. And sometimes you don't get the massive results for the amount of time invested. But today, we're going to discover that we actually get some great results. Let's have a look. This site's a simple site, Milwaukee area carpet cleaning. So if you want to get your carpet cleaned in Milwaukee, check these guys out. If we come into the Google PageSpeed Insights and scroll down, we get to the section down here, it's opportunities. And you can see reduce unused and reduce unused JavaScript and CSS. You can see that the actual times are very small. So you might think it's not worthwhile bothering. Now, if you open these up, it does tell you the files where the actual excess CSS is stored. And as you can see here, it's sort of like, looks a little bit tricky to find. It's like in the plugins and so on. It doesn't look that easy. Now let me show you. How can you find out on your website using developer tools how you can actually find out the unused JavaScript and CSS? So to be able to do this, we need to go into developer tools. Now I'm using Brave browser, so I can go up in here, view developer tools. And if I go over here on the right hand side, these 3 dots, and if I choose more tools, come over here and coverage. And you can see down here on the left, it's already loaded. I'm already using it. So if I click onto that tab here now, I just need to adjust a few things. You can see straight away that you've got unused bytes, and it actually tells you, so you can sort on that. And you can see the color coding here. The red indicates unused. So in this particular file here, there's almost 50%, which is 54% exactly, of unused CSS and JavaScript. So this gives you a good indication. In this one, you can actually see that there's well over 80%, 85% to be exact. I'm going to make this, scroll this up a little bit more. Now, here's the disclaimer. A lot of this stuff you can't change. You need to look through this list to actually see what you can change, because a lot of it you can't touch. If it's on your main website, like in this case, the one with a lot of code, like 54%, we can do that. But if we look at the one that's 85%, if we look what it is, it's a plugin. It's a business reviews plugin. We're not going to be able to touch that. So specifically at this particular level. So we don't want to be looking at that. If we look at all this other stuff, most of this stuff we can't actually touch. But this one we can. So if I click on that now, and I'm just going to adjust it because I'm working on a fairly small screen here, it will actually take you into the actual page, and it will show you the physical code. And you can see all the red here, and you can see all the code that's not being used. Now notice what these are. These are fonts. Now, even though it doesn't look as though it would actually make a big improvement, because these are font files take up a lot of resources because there's a lot of things to download. Look how many there are. There's so many of them. These are all the different font variations, the different font weights. So if we could actually do something about getting rid of this, probably we can speed up the site. Yoo-hoo! The challenge is finding out where the heck this code is stored. If I come up here and have a look right at the top, we can actually see that this code is sitting in the head of the WordPress. And this is where it gets quite complicated. So it's sitting in the head here. So that means it's inside the PHP header file. Now, if I come into my site here and have a look at that, appearance themes, let's just see if they're using a child theme. This site is using the raw Divi theme. Even though the child theme is here, it's not actually using it for some reason. So that means I can't change some of the files. I can't change the header for that, because if I did, it would actually change the master, the parent theme, and you should never do that. I would actually need to create a Divi child theme. Now, in this case, I can't do that because the client doesn't want this. So what else can I do? Well, I know Divi's got a lot of settings, so it's quite likely that those settings are actually controllable from within Divi. So let me go and have a look into Divi itself. Divi theme options. And if I scroll down, it's got use Google fonts. So it's enabled. So right now, all those fonts are actually Google fonts. Now, I don't know if there are other Google fonts being used on the site. So this is a problem. This is where you must back up your site first of all, and then you have to test this thoroughly. But there's a possibility that if I actually switch that off and disable it, only the Google fonts basically will disappear. And I could be good, but I don't know. I'm going to have to test it. So let's go and have a look at the Gtmetrix. Here's the before. Let's open that up, and here's the after. So as you can see here in the before, if I come into my waterfall and actually type into here fonts, you can see that a lot of the Google fonts are sitting here. Okay, so now basically let's come into the after, and this is where I've actually disabled in Divi the fonts, the Google fonts. Type in here fonts, and you can see the fonts have disappeared. The only thing I've changed is that particular setting inside Divi in the theme options here. And it hasn't changed the actual site. So those Google fonts are actually not being used at all. So in this case, I'm really lucky because I don't have to do a lot of diving around to actually find it. I've been lucky and I can sort of solve this quite quickly. You probably need a developer to help you sort these problems out. So that tells you how you can find out what CSS is not being used, where the actual file is, the actual physical code. You can have a look at it. You got some great options by using the development tools. Let's have a look at those other 3 ways where basically you don't have to play around with the code on your site, but you can use plugins or online tools. Let's have a look at those 3 ways now. The first one is something called Perfmatters. And if I come into here, you'll be able to get that as getters.at/Perfmatters. And that is a plugin which will allow you to remove unused CSS and unused JavaScript. So it's a great little tool. And another one, which is very similar, if I come into plugins here and add new, this is a free plugin. Perfmatters is a premium plugin. You have to pay for that. If I come into here and do asset cleanup, this is another tool which is very similar to Perfmatters, and you can see that over here. This is free. So I tend to use this one because a lot of my clients don't always want to pay, but Perfmatters does do a lot of extra function. It's a lot simpler than using asset cleanup. The last way is if you're using WP Rocket. Now, I highly recommend WP Rocket. It's a great speed tool, and it's got in 2020, late 2021 and early 2022, a new tool. Let me just show you that now. If you go into WP Rockets and settings, and if you come into file optimization and scroll down, you'll see this new option here, remove unused CSS, and it's in beta. So it's really good. I've tried it. I've tested it on quite a few sites now, and I haven't had any problems. So they've done a lot of good work with that, but it's still in beta at the moment in early 2022. So there you go, 3 great ways of how you can actually remove unused CSS or unused JavaScript, or certainly reduce it. Check out this playlist here. This is going to give you a lot more information about Core Web Vitals and speeding up your website and making your whole life a lot easier and getting a lot more results. So I hope you got a lot of value today. Hit the like button if you did, and I'll catch you again in the next video. Thank you very much. Yoo-hoo!